Hello everyone, welcome back to Hero Wars Guide. Today I'm going to take a look at the Spooky Festival store and the bundle purchase options to take a look at what you might buy there and what's the value of each item. The way I look at the store purchase options here is that there are three basic levels of how advanced you are in making your decisions. And the first one is the beginner approach, where you just come in here and you buy whatever your favorite hero needs and call it a day. The second is to take a look at these options, convert them to emerald values, and find out what's the most valuable out of these options and purchase that. And the third is to add on to that second tier, the intermediate tier, and go one step beyond to look at those emerald values and make the best decision for what your team of heroes and pets need in the long term. I think I can give you some pretty concrete numbers to support that second approach, where you just look at the emerald value of each of these purchase options and make your decisions there. And I can give you some guidance on how you should make decisions for what's best for your team long term. So jumping right in, I've seen some other YouTube content providers here talk about the first option here as being pretty good, but I've measured each of these Spooky Festival dolls to be worth, in my own openings, about 100 or 110 emeralds. And based on a release from Lode Runner of a much larger set of openings, they look like on the long term their average should be worth something like 120 or maybe 130 emeralds each. So this, I think, is actually a pretty fairly weak option. And if you don't believe my emerald calculations there, I guess what I'd just tell you is these things open 40% of the time into two more of themselves. And, over the grand average there, what that's going to come out to is each one of these will open on average 3 times. I'm not going to dig into all the math behind that, but 40% chance of 2 opening will, on average, lead to 3 openings. So call this 60 Spooky Festival dolls opening into a final resource rather than copies of themselves. So take 60 here. One of the better things that you might get out of it in any kind of frequency is the skin stones. You can see lots and lots of them come out. There are a few more valuable rewards, like 100 chaos particles, or these great runes are slightly worth more, but they don't pop up very often. So if you just assume you're going to get skin stones, if you generously assume you get skin stones on every opening, then that's 60 openings times 50 skin stones, 3,000. So here you're spending one of your coins and you get generously 3,000 skin stones, or here you could just buy 3,500 for the same coin. Obviously, this is going to open up into a lot of various things instead of purely skin stones, but in the long run, it's worth even less than the generous value that I just gave it. So I'd avoid this one. Chaos particles. This is equating to 5250 emeralds worth of value. So this is going to be one of your better options. And that's just based on your alternative option of charging up your pet gems at 7 emeralds instead of 1 of these chaos particles. Now, depending on how frequently that pet rarity fair comes back, there's an argument to be made that these are only worth 10% less than that, so 5250 times 0.9, which will come out to something like 4,700, because that is, if that is going to come back repeatedly, then that's the new most effective way to buy chaos particles with emeralds. So, depending on how you want to look at that, this is worth 4,700 to 5,250. Pet summoning eggs, this one's very straightforward. Each of these will cost you 250, so 20 of them. This is worth 5,000. In my experience, when looking at these two against each other, as they're both things that will help you level up your pets, the Chaos Particle is going to come slower through your own organic play than the Pet Souls will. So I, like in my case, for example, I'm slightly ahead of coming to completion on the Pet Souls. I'm farther ahead on that than I am on the Chaos Particles, and I've made much heavier purchases into the Chaos Particle set. So, if what you're looking to do there is max these out at about the same time rather than just pooling up a bunch of stuff you can't use, I would say that you should focus your purchases here out of the pet resources. Then moving on to skin stones, at the final level of Outland chest openings, that's going to cost you 4,500 emerald to get 3,100 skin stones, assuming you exchange all the Outland coins for the skin stone chests, which is what you should be doing. So then this is going to come out to roughly 5,100 emeralds worth of value for the three of these. So this is another really good option here. Hero Soul Stone chests, this one's a little cloudier on how you'd convert to emeralds. Generally speaking, I wouldn't advise it for anyone who's been around for a while. You probably already have your main team up to Absolute Star. And then these things at that point are really just getting converted to Soul Coin. And Soul Coins buy item fragments at about a quarter of the effectiveness of emeralds. So I will usually look at, and this is kind of murky, but I'll look at each hero soul's worth something like 25 emeralds. So then this set of 100 is worth 2,500 in the long term, which makes it a less effective buy. Now, if you're just starting out and your top 5 heroes are nowhere near Absolute Star, this might be a good buy. Or in the very edge case that you're getting to the end of this event and you've managed to get 900, you can't get any more hero souls, and you want to get that last milestone in the hero soul task, then sure, go ahead and buy this, open it, you'll get to 1,000 and you'll get a coin right back that you can use for something better. But for most people, I don't think this is your best bet. These pet gems here, it's hard to overstate how horrible an option this is. You can buy these on your pet for 135 chaos particles. So, here's 750, or spend the same coin to get 135. This makes no sense to me at all. They could put all 5 of these pet gems in one for 1 coin, and it would still be a worse buy. So I don't know why this is here, and I very strongly encourage you not to buy them. You're also likely, I think, to have a larger stockpile of these than you can ever spend by the time your pets are even ready to equip these stones. So definitely avoid all of these. And then that's going to bring us into the items here. There's a number of red options, some orange, and I believe a few purple here at the end as well. So the value of these is going to vary pretty considerably. They go from something like 4,400, I think, up to 7,200 per coin. So you get some pretty different values here. And I'm going to pop over to Excel to show some of those. So this is a list of all the items that are available in the shop that we were just looking at. A couple of the other columns I'll give a really quick description of. This is just how many fragments, item fragments it takes to create that item. This is what it will cost you out of the rarity fair to buy it. This is just how many I need, so not super relevant to you guys. I'll talk about this one when we get into the third level of evaluating these purchases. This is how many summer coin or spooky coin, it's actually the exact same shop, that you'd need to spend to get the item. And then this is the important one here for this conversation. This is how many emeralds you would pay at Rarity Fair per spooky coin that you have to spend to get the item. So this is what you'd want to compare to kind of that gold standard of around 5,000 or 5,250 for the the other really good buys out of the shop, which were those skin stones or chaos particles. So if something's way over 5,000, then that would indicate that it's a really good item to consider if it's something you still need. If it's way under, then relative to the others, it wouldn't be your best buy. So you can see here this Archangel's Mace. Rarity Fair is going to charge you $72.40, and you can buy it in this shop for only 1 coin. So in a raw emerald calculation, this is the best thing that you could get. Obviously, if you don't have any heroes that need them, you've already equipped them all or whatever, then this is worthless to you. But if you still need them, this would be a great buy purely by the emeralds. And then, most of the purple is around 5,000 per. Book of Fate's another one where it's well above the average, but the others are here at an even 5,000, so roughly equal to what you get out of the skin stones or chaos particle. And then a few of these others. Oppressor's Crown is one of the lowest out of the mix here at 4,400. You've got a couple other oranges here above 5,000 by a little, or Evil Genius, Curus, Key to All Doors, Song of the Valkyries, all a good chunk above value here at 5,800. So these are great picks. And also, aside from the emerald consideration, item fragments in general are going to give you a little bit more power per emerald than some of the other categories. So it's kind of a quick path to being stronger. Obviously, if you spend all your emeralds on items, then you'll end up in a place where you've got all the items and none of the skin stones. And I'd advise working them all up at relatively equal measure, so that you don't pool up useless resources in the very long term. You want to hit max across all categories at about the same time. Anyway, I'm not going to talk through each individual thing here. You can pause and take a look at my calculations here if you'd like. Alright, so I think that wraps up the emerald value for each of these options and the intermediate approach to buying items from the shop. So to talk a little bit about how you might make the best decisions for your specific team, I can't give you that answer. It's going to depend on how many and which heroes you're developing, and what you see as your target for the long term. For some of you, that's just a core of 5 to 8. For another, maybe you're looking at Grand Arena 15 or 18 with some substitutions, something like that. Maybe now with Asgard coming, you're going to need to think about 25 or 28. The target there is going to vary for each of you. And if you're looking at really only caring about that core team of 5 to 8 heroes, and you just don't really care about the rest, you're all about Guild War and Arena, then you should really focus on the pet purchases here at the highest priority, just because relative to the total amount of resources that you're going to need out of skin stones, items, etc., to max out those 5 to 8 heroes, it's going to take you way longer to max out the 5 pets through just your ordinary day-to-day playing than it will to max out those heroes. So you should spend a little bit more heavily in the pet section than in the hero section. If you're around 15 total heroes, then it's getting to be more even. And if you're looking at staying in this game for a long time and you want to fully develop a much larger team of 20, 25, maybe even more options, then ultimately you're going to need to spend way more on the hero side of the game than the pets. You'll, through just organic growth, max out pets way before you finish that team of heroes. So Pets are still very important. You want to make some purchases in that category, I think, because you're still going to care about your top 5 or 8 heroes more than the rest. So it's always a good idea to spend some here, I think, but maybe you want to spend a little bit more than that on the hero side. And so we already talked about the relative value here of skin stones versus items, but the piece that and you're going to need a lot of both of those for any hero you're developing, so there's no real bad buy here, but the more detailed point that I want to get into on how you decide which items to buy, going beyond just this raw emerald calculation, is really taking a look at that team of 15 or 20 or whatever heroes you want to focus on for the medium and long term, and finding out what items do those heroes need and what fragments are needed to create those items. And that's how I built out a couple of these columns here that are telling me, for my team of heroes, how many of each of these items do I need. And I've already equipped all of the cosmic tremors that I need for any hero that I'm focusing on anytime soon for the next couple of years. So while this isn't a bad buy from the emeralds, I don't need any more, so it's totally useless. And then some of these I'm going to need lots and lots of, so maybe they'd be a better idea for me to get, like this Keto Outdoors as an example. But then this other column here, this buy percentage. So this is based on all of the fragments that are needed for these items. Again, for my team, and yours is going to vary depending on who you want to focus on. But the idea here, this might be a good example here, the Panoptic Orb. So that is based on Panoptic Orb recipe fragments, the Divination Orb recipe fragments, and then I believe it's Trines and maybe Hand of Glory or something like that. And if you look at the missions that provide various fragments to you, you'll see that there are certain fragments that you're going to need thousands, maybe tens of thousands, and others where you only need a few thousand, but maybe they come from the same mission. And if they do, that item that you only need 2,000 of instead of 10,000 is effectively free, because you're going to raid that mission tens of thousands of times to get the more rare fragment. So these numbers here are filled in for what my heroes still need, and based on which of those fragments are on the critical path. So for example, this Piercing Gaze item, and I don't know off the top of my head even remember what are all the fragments that go into this, but they're all the most rare from the set of missions that provide those fragments. So this one, while it's not worth the most emeralds, if I take a look at the emerald value of the coin, and considering this percentage of fragments that are actually useful to me rather than coming to me for free in the long term, then that's going to give me some different stories here. So at that point, Piercing Gaze is one of the most valuable, and it's at 4640 here. You start to see that maybe these aren't quite as good as the skin stones in general, but then some of these are going to vary pretty considerably against column L that we talked about earlier. So Book of Fate holds up really well for me. Piercing Gaze, a very good buy. But some of them that looked the strongest at the surface, like this Archangel's Mace, most of these fragments are effectively for me going to be free, just because they come from the same missions as the fragments that I need 1,000,000 of. So this drops all the way from a really nice looking 7240 all the way down to 3300. So this would actually, in the long run, this would not be a very smart buy for me. So I hope that gives you something to think about. It's a lot of data entry to figure out where your team is at. But the fandom webpage will give you a lot of guidance on what fragments are needed by what heroes and what items are needed by them, what fragments come from each item. And if you have the patience to piece that together for yourself, then you can make a little bit more educated decisions here. All right, so hopefully that made sense, and gives you guys something interesting to think about there. I'd appreciate some feedback on that. If you think I'm way off base on any of this, let me know. If you think this is a great idea and something you're going to do yourself, again, let me know. I'd be interested to hear if you guys are finding this sort of thing helpful. All right, so then I'm going to wrap up here by talking about the the bundles. You get 5 options here, as has been the case in all the recent events, and these are just going to go up in cost as you go from left to right here. So the intro one, 1850, gives you just 1 coin, a handful of these dolls, and one to each. One doll to each member of your guild, and then more expensive here, but you get more of the spooky coin, which is by far the most valuable resource out of this. If you see these spooky coins are based on what we just discussed, they're worth around 5,000 emeralds each. These things are only worth about 120, so this is 50,000 emerald worth of value essentially, and this is only 12,000. And if you have a full guild, this is going to be a little bit shy of that. So I put together a little bit of math behind how that's going to play out as well here. And I'm not going to go through all these columns here, but they go out to the right here, just breaking down each of the different resources that you get within the bundle and how many emeralds that works out to. But I think we can focus on the left set here. So this is simply, what does the bundle cost? This is telling you how many emeralds you would get if you bought it during the 4 times sale for that same amount of dollars. And that's different for each person. Depending on your VIP level, you're going to get different emeralds. If you're at 15, that's something like 1,200 for the larger emerald bundles. So this number is a little understated for those guys at VIP 15. If you're much lower, then you won't get quite 1,000. So this is going to be in the other direction here. So where you're at, this is going to be play out a little differently. And then this is the value that you get out of the bundle directly to yourself. So if you buy this $75 bundle, then you get 62,000 emeralds worth of value. So that was 50,000 from the spooky coins and 12,000 from the dolls, like I mentioned on the other screen. And then this column here is giving you some information on the value provided to your guild. So this was, I believe it was 3 of the dolls to each person, times 29 people is going to work out to a little over 10,000 emeralds worth of value. And that's for a total of 72,000 out of this bundle. So, I think the important thing to look at when you're deciding how valuable are these things is, how does the bundle compare to the 4 times emerald sale, which is kind of the gold standard for most people. I think that's the wisest place if you're going to spend money on this game. That's the best time to do it. My approach, generally speaking, is to buy big on the 4 times sale, and then that's it. I guess I pay Valkyrie's favor as well, but I just buy up a bunch of emeralds, and then that's my budget for the month. I'll spend them over the course of the event, over the course of the month on whatever events look the best, because they're usually going to give you a better value than the bundles here. That said, Spooky Festival is one of the best, if not the best, value out of these bundles as compared to the 4x. And if you're VIP 15, again, this is a little overstated. So, for you, you're still going to be better off buying from the 4X sale. Unless you're someone who buys so big that you're maxing out those every day, then this is your next best way to spend here. I'm not anywhere near at that level myself, but I know some people are. So, if that's you, then the largest bundle here is going to be one of the best things you can buy. It's also going to provide a ton of value to your guild, who maybe is not spending the same as you are. And the only other thing I think I want to highlight here is just the relative value here, depending on the size of the bundle that you buy. Obviously, the bigger here gives you a little bit more return per dollar. But it's not a huge difference here between the $75 and the $225 category. But these first two are drastically lower performing. So, if you're considering buying this, you'll get something out of it for sure. But I would encourage you to save your spending on this game for the 4x sale. You're going to get much more effectiveness that way than you will from these bundles. Anyway, I think that's everything I wanted to cover. Hope this wasn't too long for you guys. If you find this sort of thing valuable, please subscribe, give this video a like, and let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you.